Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to mindforcombat. If you're new to this channel, my name's Rohan, and this is my platform where I do MMA and boxing related content, and I'm trying to grow my platform, so I need help from you. All I need from you is hit the subscribe button, like the video, dislike the video if you don't like it, whatever the case is, just comment below, let me know what you thought of the video and how you think the fight's going to go. So now, getting into this fight, I have to give you guys full disclosure. I'm a full-on Nate Diaz fanboy, and I have been a huge Nate Diaz fan practically my entire life. When getting into MMA, my favourite fighter of all time is his older brother, Nate Diaz. Not who I think is the greatest, who is my personal favourite. I would say Nate Diaz. And I love both the Diaz boys. So I'm very, very excited to see him coming back. I'm really excited to see him match up with another one of my favourite fighters of all time in Anthony Pettis. And this is a fight that in a lot of ways is a dream matchup. But there is some background stuff that you need to consider coming into this fight. Firstly, Nate Diaz hasn't fought in 3 years' time. His last two fights, yes, they were at welterweight, but he was essentially a career lightweight. He had a 2-2 run at welterweight prior to that, and I know he's gotten a bit older. He's 34 years old coming to this, so maybe cutting down in weight isn't such an easy thing to do anymore. But coming into this fight, he's had a long layoff. How is that going to have impacted him? Is it going to have rejuvenated him? Is he going to be rusty? And he's coming in there with no doubt one of the best fighters in the world at 155 pounds, and he looked pretty damn amazing fighting a top 5 welterweight in his last fight. But you have to be honest about this. Although Anthony Pettis looked great in his fight with Stephen Thompson, is he a true welterweight? I don't think so. Of the two, I would say Nate Diaz is definitely a much more comfortable welterweight and could do better at 170 long term, even though Anthony Pettis was able to get the win over Stephen Thompson, and that's something that we can talk about further in this fight. And so this is it's a really fun fight. It's probably up there among my favourite fights of the year, and I just cannot wait for it to happen. Anyways, with that said, guys, let's get into the tail of the tape and talk about each issue or factor step by step. So Anthony Pettis is 32 years old, and he's been around the game for a long time. He's had 30 professional fights. There was the time when he was a young supernova coming over from WEC. He was the young world champion. He had that slump, and now he's sort of that veteran, rugged fighter who's been around for a long time. And he fights Nate Diaz, who's 34 years old and hasn't fought in 3 years' time. So you got to wonder if at 34 years old he's starting to slow down. Stereotypically, fighters that get older, the first thing that starts to slow down is their reflexes, sharpness. Now, Nate Diaz isn't a dude who had the craziest reflexes. He was never Anderson Silva, but I would say he had still had good fundamental skills when it comes time to movement time and head movement, stuff like that. He tends to eat a lot of shots in his head, but is his age a factor coming into this fight, particularly considering his inactivity coming into this fight? I don't know. There's not a big difference in the age between both of them, but it is something that we should consider. Anthony Pettis is the slightly younger man, but has he had less wear and tear? Now, this is something that there's tons of questions coming into this fight. As I said earlier, Anthony Pettis has a record of 22 wins and 8 losses. He fights Nate Diaz, who has a record of 19 wins and 11 losses. They've both had 30 professional mixed martial arts fights, so that's an interesting stat right there, and there's one that we got to think about. So they're both there in terms of experience, both had high profile fights, and so this is a really good fight for two guys who know what it's like to fight at the top of the division. Nate Diaz is a little bit taller than Anthony Pettis. I believe he's 2 inches taller than him. He stands at 6 foot tall, and Anthony Pettis stands at 5'10". Nate Diaz also has a little bit of a reach advantage over him with a 77-inch reach, as opposed to Anthony Pettis' 72.5-inch reach, so that's 4.5 inches of reach. Considering Nate Diaz is going to be looking to box with him, and he is a good boxer, that is a thing that we have to take into consideration. Their styles. So Anthony Pettis has obviously got that crazy dynamic styles. He's got the flashy kicks. He's unpredictable. The KO of Stephen Thompson is a perfect example of his unpredictability. The Showtime kick on Benson Henderson one time. He's got them cartwheel head kicks that he'll throw. He's unpredictable, and he's a striker. He's obviously got that 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo, which has given him great versatility in his kicks. He's got some brutal kick KOs in his time. The head kick KO of Joe Lozan, the body kick KO of Donald Cerrone come to mind. The brutal body kicks that he was throwing at Benson Henderson before they fought. You know what I mean? His kicking game is dynamic, and that's going to be very key in this. With Nate Diaz, he's more of a pressure boxer. He'll be in your face. He doesn't really give you the chance to have a break or a breather, and he's got boxing. He'll just be punching you the whole time, slapping you, talking rubbish to you the whole time. He likes to get in your head in his fights, and that's sort of the Diaz style. Let's look at their key wins. For Anthony Pettis, you're looking at a great long resume of key wins. He's got 2 wins over Benson Henderson. Benson Henderson being one of the best welterweights of the last 10 years. Lightweights of the last 10 years, and that's something to think about. He beat Don Cerrone brutally, as I mentioned before. Joe Lozan, back in the days when Joe Lozan was a contender. He choked out Gilbert Melendez when Gilbert Melendez was 1-1 in the UFC. One fighter had just beaten Diego Sanchez, and a lot of people thought he should have beaten Benson Henderson. So him finishing Gilbert was pretty damn impressive, if you ask me. More recently, he's beaten Charles the Bronx Oliveira, and he's choked him out, which I felt was key. That was a great win over Charles Oliveira. He's submitted Michael Chiesa with the armbar, which was another great win. And he's taken out Stephen Thompson in his most recent fight, which was a very, very key win. With Nate Diaz, I guess you know who I'm going to say is his key win now. With Nate Diaz, his key wins are Conor McGregor. That's an incredible key win, particularly when he beat Conor McGregor, came in short notice and done it. Prior to that, he had beaten Michael Johnson, who at the time was an elite lightweight. He had lost his fight to Beneil Dariush, but everyone felt like he should have won that. Before that, he had won 4 fights, so he could have, in theory, been on a 5-fight win streak coming into that. A lot of people were picking Michael Johnson to beat him, so that's something to consider. He obviously beat Gray Maynard back in the days, 2013, when Gray Maynard was still relevant, and he's taken out Don Cerrone himself and Jim Miller when Jim Miller was another relevant contender as well. The issues for Anthony Pettis, I've always felt like Anthony Pettis struggles with sort of pressure boxers when guys get in his face so let me talk about this a bit more step by step. So firstly, I feel like he's always been susceptible to a good boxer. Anthony Pettis has always left openings for a boxer to punch him in the face, and I feel like if you look at his past fights and look at the guys who have had success with him, guys like Max Holloway, for example, that's a good one. Then RDA, and RDA was able to use his wrestling as well, which obviously had a huge impact. But I feel like boxers have had a lot of success against Anthony Pettis, and Nate Diaz will definitely try to box with him. He's also shown that he struggles with pressure. Now, fights that I point to show he struggled with pressure is the RDA fight. He struggled with pressure there, where he got pushed against the cage, and RDA was able to get the win. He showed glimpses of those same issues against Eddie Alvarez. He's shown that he was susceptible to boxing and to pressure in his fight with Tony Ferguson, and I feel like he maybe is susceptible to quitting when he's in those tough, high pressure, high octane fights. He may quit. He's shown me, I felt like he quit against RDA, and I felt like he quit against Tony Ferguson, and I feel like Nate Diaz is going to be able to shine in those areas. With Nate Diaz, the issues are definitely his inactivity. He hasn't fought in 3 years' time. How's that going to impact him? And he's got a susceptibility to leg kicks, as we know with both the Diaz brothers. They like to keep their lead leg heavy because it helps them with their boxing game, and I feel like that's going to make a difference. The X factor for Anthony Pettis is going to be his kicks, leg kicks, body kicks, head kicks, everything that he can do, all of the above. And for Nate Diaz, it's going to be his pressure and his boxing. Obviously, both of their issues are both of their strengths, and that's what makes this fight is so appealing to me. Let's get into the fight and how I see the fight's going to go. So, I see that this fight's going to be fought on the feet. Now, they both got great BJJ, and I didn't point to that because I feel like both of these guys are it's almost going to be like an unsaid gentleman's agreement that they're going to be striking. I feel like they're going to fight on the feet, and I feel like Nate Diaz is going to enjoy a nice reach advantage with the boxing. The difference is Anthony Pettis is going to be kicking him as well. Nate Diaz is going to have a lot of trouble dealing with the kicking game, particularly considering he's been off for a long time, unless he's been training, taking leg kicks from Joe Schilling for 3 years pretty much non-stop. He's going to have a really hard time with Anthony Pettis. Now, if you want to say Anthony Pettis has declined or he hasn't, what we have to admit is that he's been in the ring fighting top flight competition. I believe he's gone 3-3 since Nate Diaz had his last fight. Now, I have to be honest, his win over Stephen Thompson, whilst it ended spectacularly and he was able to get the win, I felt like Stephen Thompson was lighting him up, and I didn't feel like he looked that comfortable at welterweight, whereas Nate Diaz, I have seen him look comfortable at welterweight previously, if not look elite. I feel like Nate Diaz is going to be able to pressure Anthony Pettis for the entirety of the fight. 3 rounds, and bear in mind, 3 rounds is not that long, considering that Anthony Pettis has had obviously 5-round fights, many 5-round fights. But I feel like Nate Diaz is going to be in his face the entire time, punching him, and he's going to be able to take advantage of the gaps that Anthony Pettis leaves in his boxing defense, and he's going to be able to exploit that to be able to land punches and stay in Anthony Pettis' face the whole time. I believe over time Anthony Pettis will start to struggle, and yes, Anthony Pettis can hit hard and has great kicks, and and he has the opportunity to kick Nate's leg and slow him down. If you want to slow down someone's boxing, well, you kick him in the leg, and that's going to be a very readily available option for him. I'm not going to lie to you guys, this is a very hard fight for me to pick, and I really struggle. I had my debate with my boy TJ, and I really struggled to make a pick in this one. But for the sake of my official prediction, I have to go with Nate Diaz to implement a pressure boxing style, be able to be in Anthony Pettis' face the entire time, use his size and length advantage over Anthony Pettis, and implement that in order to be able to get the win over Anthony Pettis. So my official prediction is Nate Diaz to be able to get a unanimous decision after a somewhat dominant, not a somewhat competitive 3 rounds, and be able to use his boxing to his advantage and his pressure to his advantage. Would an Anthony Pettis win surprise me? Not in the slightest. Am I picking it? No, Nate Diaz. So guys, let me know what you guys think. Comment below. This is a really hard one for me to pick, and I am a little bit biased. Obviously, I try to remain objective in my breakdowns of things, and I did want to give you guys full transparency to say I am a huge Nate Diaz fanboy. I think it's important to do that, but notwithstanding, I still do feel like he's got the tools to win. Actually, I have to say this, I should have said this earlier, I actually feel like the inactivity is going to have helped Nate Diaz, because he's been fighting since his early teens. He's not really had any long period of time off, and I feel like when he has had previous gaps, like before his Michael Johnson fight, he had a year off, he's come back and looked rejuvenated. So I think he's going to be motivated, rejuvenated, refreshed, and having the time off from taking those beatings, while Anthony Pettis has been taking those beatings. I think that will impact. Sorry guys, had to just throw that in, I forgot to mention that earlier. And yeah guys, comment below, let me know what you guys think. If you're new here, then remember to like and subscribe, share out the video with friends and family, and thank you for watching guys.